people really love a neighbourhood that is super green, that's really walkable, that's well maintained and where people care for each other, and that's close to amenity, that's got lots of good stuff near where you live.
So you looked at 50 different well, a lot of different LGAs. 25,000 people were surveyed, local government areas. Were there any surprising results out of this?
I think what's surprising is how much we've got actually in common, so that like 71% of everyone who responded said that elements of the natural environment was important to them in their ideal neighbourhood. And just having that kind of alignment, I think, should give confidence to people making decisions about what we actually put in our neighbourhoods and what we do to look after them.
And what about density? Because I think one of the things that I found interesting when looking at all these results was really dense local government areas performed pretty well.
Yeah, we found actually kind of that there's sort of this medium density perfect sort of spot, which is usually the places that have got a mix of housing types. So there might be some freestanding houses, but there'll also be terraces and maybe apartment blocks. Those places tend to be a bit more established, so they've got better trees, they're close, they have sort of traditional shopping centres, and they're the places that are actually performing best across the country.
And where are these places? Which areas performed the highest in your results?
Everyone loves to know this. So kind of the 3 local government areas that really did the best according to their local communities is Subiaco in Perth, Noosa up in Queensland, and Lane Cove here in New South Wales. So quite a good spectrum, and there's lots of other places that obviously people really enjoy living in as well.
And on the other edge of the scale, what areas performed the worst on this scale?
I think it's the areas that are often in the fastest growing regions, so places that aren't established, that have kind of homogenous housing, so only like really family homes, that maybe don't have those established trees and don't have enough amenity or infrastructure to really meet people's day-to-day needs.
Did you see different results in terms of people's ages as to how they interpreted and how they were happy with the places where they lived compared to others?
Yeah, it's not as diverse as you might think, but definitely we saw, for instance, that the under 25s have got kind of different expectations about what makes a great neighbourhood. They also had sort of lower levels of mental health, which I think is really sort of important. So when you're looking at sort of what would make a more livable neighbourhood for youth, they want definitely more sustainable urban design. They want the community to actually act sustainably, and they also want things to do in the evening, not necessarily just bars and nightclubs, but even things like having the lights on at the local park.
How do you think these results should be interpreted and then used in terms of developments and housing and apartments or mixed use? What do you think should be done?
I think we've already got a lot of governments that are involved using this data, and I think putting kind of community or human-centric data in the centre of decision making is really key, because it's about improving outcomes for everybody. So what we can be doing is saying, okay, well, we know what makes a neighbourhood great, and making sure those decision makers understand what's specific to their location. But generally we are looking for green, walkable, well maintained and quite compact local neighbourhoods that have lots of local amenity.
Just going back to the different groups that you looked at with your census, so looking at ages, but were there other community members who ranked lower or weren't as happy in their communities?
Yeah, there's 2 groups, those people who don't identify as male or female, as well as those people who identify as First Nations. They were 2 of the lowest performing groups. So they're really seeing livability very differently from the majority of Australians. And this kind of data, I think, really helps us to unpack kind of where, but also who may not be experiencing the same levels of livability. And again, being able to focus investments in things that are going to actually make a positive impact to those particular groups.